right, it is 6 o'clock, and I will call the 23rd regular Common Council meeting to order. Will the clerk call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderperson Bellinger.
Here.
Alderperson Borse.
Here.
Alderperson Close.
Here.
Alderperson Decker. Alderperson Gravine.
Here.
Alderperson Heidemann. Alderperson Menzer.
Here.
Alderperson Mitchell.
Here.
Alderperson Perrella.
Here.
Alderperson Rust. There are 10 present.
Thank you. Folks could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. One moment, please. We are having some technical difficulties. It's up and then up and down. Okay. Okay. All right, sorry about that. Okay, Alder Perrella, is there a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
I move to approve the minutes from the 22nd regular council meeting held on February 16, 2026.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of approval of the minutes state aye.
Aye.
Any objection? Any objection? Minutes are approved. Next is confirmation of appointments. The city attorney.
Thank you. Pursuant to Section 2-198 of the Sheboygan Municipal Code relating to the Director of Facilities, Mayor Ryan Sorensen and City Administrator Casey Bradley recommend Hugo Cardenas Jr. be appointed as the Director of Facilities for the City of Sheboygan effective April 6, 2026.
Thank you, city attorney. Alder Perrella.
I move to confirm.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Under discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote for approval.
Ten ayes.
All right, that is approved. City clerk, anyone for public forum this evening?
We do have some. The first person is Lisa Salgado.
All right, Lisa, if you want to introduce yourself, name, address, the item you're speaking on, and then you have 5 minutes.
Lisa Salgado, 4th Street, items 21 and 22. My question is, have any of you read this developer agreement, and how does Lot 1 qualify for a TID? Wisconsin state law does not allow market rate housing as a TID. Director Zeinert already admitted that this was market rate housing at the finance meeting. For the Lot 1 agreement, there is no contamination remediation suggested. The developer accepts it as is, with all faults, waives claims against the city, including environmental. There's no blight clearance requirement, it's not mixed use, it's not industrial, and there's nothing that ties the incentive payment to a qualifying TID purpose. The only stated justification is the developer's own but-for declaration, which has no substance or explanation. There has been no public evidence to substantiate this $8 million public expenditure in total incentives. I filed an open record request to be filled before tonight's vote, which I did not receive. There is a lack of transparency here. I asked for the TID request application form. which should be completed by the developer of the Wells Fargo site in accordance to the city's own published procedure for TID applications. Also, according to this policy, the city does not approve increment financing for more than 15% of a project's total assessed value. So with a $22 million guaranteed value and incentive with land and cash awards, the $8 million subsidy is at 40%. Even with just the cash incentive, it's 21%, not 15%. So with no justification for a TID, why is this developer getting such a sweetheart deal? Why hasn't the pro forma been released publicly, or even in tonight's agenda for the public to view? I was notified by an alder that the city no longer uses the city's own TID policy that was adopted by resolution on June 21st, 2021. The best practice would be to amend it by a new resolution or formally repeal it by resolution. Leaving it on the books creates confusion, creates selective application concerns, and creates the appearance of arbitrary decision-making. You should formally amend or repeal it then, or follow it. Also, could you explain how we can create this TID if it's not in a project plan for the original TID 21 or its amendment? The Wells Fargo project, looking at the amendment, is not included on page 21 map, page 23, or the page 29 cash flow chart. Director Zeinert stated the Finance Committee that the Wells Fargo property is a contaminated site. This is an inaccurate statement. The Wells Fargo site had lead paint and asbestos, which was cleaned up before demolition when the city spent $80,000 from the TID 21 contingency fund. They hired Stantec to do a Phase 2 environmental site assessment conducted on May 5th, 2025, and it said, no further environmental remediation action is required. Therefore, it's no longer contaminated and is construction ready. So this does not qualify for a TID then. So where is the remediation report suggesting possible need for further action on contamination, and how does it justify the incentive? By creating a TID, the city, county, and schools are losing out on future property taxes to the general fund for the next 25 years. Parking still hasn't been fully addressed. On page 15 of the agreement, it only talks about 30 surface parking spaces located on a separate city-owned parcel by application process. There are 126 units. Where's the rest of the parking? It hasn't been identified in this plan. Lot 2, there are 10 townhouses with only 6 garages and 8 parking stalls. That only allows for 4 extra stalls for second car families and visitors. This is a prime location in the heart of the city and walkable to so many amenities on the lake. This is an infill project, so the infrastructure is already there. The city already spent the money to make it construction ready. There is no public benefit for the city to sell this land for $1. Your only and best choice is to sell the land to a developer to recoup the money we put into the site. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. City Clerk, next person.
Mark Mahoney.
All right, Mike, if you want to introduce yourself, name, address, and the item you're speaking on, and then you'll have 5 minutes.
Okay, my name is Mark Mahoney, 832 North 6th Street, Landmark Square Condominiums. Speaking of units 21 and 22, items on the agenda. I live adjacent to the former Wells Fargo property, which is the topic for this meeting. And I just want to spend about 30 seconds giving a little background of myself, not because you're interested in me personally, but I'm an example or a demographic of somebody, how does somebody get to Sheboygan in the first place from out of state? I moved from downtown Cincinnati about 3 years ago, and I worked here part-time remotely for about a year and a half before retiring. And now why downtown Sheboygan? I could have moved to Howard's Grove, and then what? Walked to the park and then back home. No. Or I could have lived along Highway 43 and bought a second car. No. So I wanted to live in downtown Sheboygan. Why a landmark condo? Why purchase rather than rent? I rented in downtown Cincinnati for 15 years, and I wanted to rent here too. But there were no 3-bedroom rentals available downtown, and few houses were available for sale. Landmark had a rare 3-bedroom apartment open, so I bought. And I'm also a downtown guy. And for me, the more people in Sheboygan, the more support for the arts, the more successful commerce, the better. I'm happy to see the Weil Center and the new hotel projects. But there's a couple issues that I think we want to keep our eye on. One question that I have as I see all these projects, is the city at too much risk of too much debt related to development? I don't know. I see the numbers, but I'm not a financial person. I think it's up to you and everyone else to say when is a lot of debt too much debt. But of course, if we didn't do these projects, the city would be criticized for doing too little. So it's kind of a balance. We want to do just the right amount of development, not too much, not too little, but that seems like a tough task. So I would urge the mayor, council, and planning commission all to ask tough questions like, is there too much debt? Is the pace of development correct? What are the different options available? Tough questions and some advocacy for the balance to happen. And I don't really see that. Maybe that happens outside these walls, but generally I don't see a lot of questions being asked and a lot of debate in these meetings where I go to. So again, some good debate and some good choices. What about the former Wells Fargo site? My neighbor. I recently provided the input to the mayor on pretty much the same issue that Lisa was talking about, whether developer initiatives and incentives can be used for market rate apartments on a site as nice as the existing lot. TID law to me also did not seem to support that. But I was recently told that there's more flexibility with a rehab TID. And I was also told that it's possible that the Van Briesen attorney might be available later on in this meeting to answer some questions. And if that's true, if that's possible, it would be interesting to me to hear why the type of TID that we have has more flexibility for this type of incentive for basically a regular development project. I think that parking is the most significant issue. The mayor and planning director visited Landmark last week, and most of the owners raised parking concerns, and I think you're probably going to hear a couple more of those after me. The Planning Commission will review that issue soon, and input could be provided there. Now, parking is not so much an issue for me. I have my parking spot in the underground garage, and I can walk to just about anywhere, including Nature's Best, a great little grocery store where I get my duck eggs. But parking is a real concern for the people probably who will live in that building, as I understand that the minimum requirements might only be met with space on a city block, which I think is a couple blocks away. So it may be problematic for people to make that trip for their parking. I don't know. But that's all for me at this time. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mark. City Clerk, anyone else?
Roger Skelk?
Right, Roger, if you want to state your name, address, the item you're speaking on, and then you'll have 5 minutes.
Well, it's Shelk, but that's okay. Roger Shelk. I live at 832 North 6th Street, Unit 417, same building that Mark is in. And others have addressed the legalities of this project. My biggest concern that I wanted to talk about is the parking. I can't imagine why someone would design an apartment unit with 126 apartments and then have, the way I understand the plan, 92 indoor parking spaces. So that leaves 34 vehicles that have to park outside. And if any of the 126 apartments have a second vehicle, and then they have visitors and family that come, I can easily see over 200 vehicles. And there's not anywhere near that space in the Wells Fargo site. The city planner in a meeting suggested the city lot at 7th and Niagara for that purpose. And I know that some of those sites are leased to some downtown businesses, but I think that parking lot was designed to support the downtown businesses. And there are some great businesses down there. There are restaurants, there are stores, etc. I think most of you are familiar with those. But the big problem comes when there are other events going on downtown. I and my wife volunteer at the Weil Center. Well, the Weil Center has 1,150 seats. That translates into a lot of vehicles. The Berkshire wedding venue can accommodate 300 people. More vehicles, when they fall on the same evenings, the people coming into the Weil Center, because we frequently scan tickets, they complain about the parking. So to add to that by suggesting that this new apartment building should park in that lot, to me that just makes absolutely no sense. And during the daytime, the City Green has concerts. John Michael Kohler Art Center has their big event during the summer. I don't know if any of you folks go to those events, but if you do, then you know the problem with parking. So all I ask is that you consider this, and I ask that this council not approve this project for the legal reasons that were mentioned and because of the parking that it will create in the downtown area. I think that property, Wells Fargo site, can be used for a much better purpose to serve the city and not just this one developer. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. City Clerk, anyone else?
Michael Burnett.
Is Mr. Burnett in the audience? All right, seeing none. Anyone else, City Clerk?
No one else this evening.
All right. No, public forum, you have to sign up ahead of time. Thank you. All right, no major announcements from me this evening. I know that a lot of the topics and issues that were discussed at the forum today will be discussed later on in the agenda as well. So I know we got some big items this evening, so we'll proceed with the regular scheduled program. All right, items 8 through 19 on the consent agenda. Alder Prella.
I move to accept and file all reports and adopt all the resolutions.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved in second. Any discussion on any of the items on the consent agenda? All right. Alder Gravine?
Is the Arbringer in that?
Yes. Item 14.
Yes, I'd like to discuss item 14. I had too many things going through my head. Why are we choosing to go with this company at this cost?
City Administrator?
We had an extensive conversation about this Finance Committee. This is a company that's already known to the city. The police department has implemented portions of their training over the last several years. And in evaluating with the product that they offer versus what other companies are offering, we felt this was the best fit for what we need from a leadership training perspective. We realized that, yes, this is a higher cost than you would see in your traditional, but it's a more in-depth training program, and it's an overall, our goal here is overall culture change within the city, and this is the product that we believe can get us what we need versus other options that are available at lower costs. This has a very good track record, and I don't know if Chief wants to add anything on this as well. He's also talked to other communities that are using it and had a lot of success with it.
Any follow-up, Alder Ravine?
Yeah, please, Chief, would you like to add any information on it?
Chief?
Yeah, I'm sorry, your initial question was a little hard to hear. Can you restate it?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just curious at why we're choosing this this company at what I think is exorbitant cost.
Yeah, so in my experience with leadership courses like this, the expense is not all that out of line, especially with what's included in the package. Individual coaching sessions, there's 6 individual coaching sessions for each participant, as well as the group sessions and associated materials. I told the Finance and Personnel Committee last week, I'm one of the Wisconsin Department of Justice instructors for their 3-week leadership class around the state. And we feel like we've been exposed to Arbinger's material since about 2019. We're aware that many other police departments and municipalities have implemented it. It has I think, especially good application for public service organizations like ours, and that we've had success with it internally as well, just simply taking the materials and using them as coaching or leadership development opportunities internally in the police department as well.
Can I ask one?
One more follow-up?
Yeah, just one more. City Administrator, does this also include like trainer materials or anything like that to justify this cost?
We will have train the trainer as part of this. So there will be additional costs for sending additional train the trainers, but the group that we're sending through will serve as part of the training cohort that'll train for this to be organization-wide. Obviously, we only have 32 individuals in this, so I believe we have 2 of our HR staff that'll help facilitate the next round of training after this is complete. So then it'll just be the individuals that are getting sent to the train the trainer, and then internally the materials to keep current on things for internal training. But this will be the only big go around of the initial training for this program.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the consent agenda? Alder Prella.
Yes, I just wanted to add to that conversation a moment, because we had an extensive discussion about this during the committee, and I had time to digest some of the information. I agree the price tag is very high. The highest I've ever heard about the training for 32 people. But at the same time, I also think that this is an opportunity for us to support the city's leadership and workforce, to invest, as we know how much that is important, to invest in our employees. And I know that there have been less than stellar experiences in the past with training. So I see that and I look at it as a real investment. Of course, in a year or so, we will be able to ask questions on the outcome of this training, and I expect that even the trainer cost would be justified based on some feedback and outcome of this first part. In addition, I think based on my personal experience, the fact I really like that there are 6 individual coaching sessions per participant. That no little thing. I think that is very good, very useful, and I'm sure that it will be greatly appreciated and beneficial.
Thank you, Alder Prella. Police Chief.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to add one other thing for context. One of the suggestions that came up during the committee meeting was to use local training sources, and I just wanted to add to the discussion that we are going to have a couple of people participating in Lakeland University's corporate partner training program. One of the courses that they offer is a 2-day class on crucial conversations. That course costs $1,900 at Lakeland University for 2 days.
Thanks, Police Chief. Any other discussion on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Ayes.
All right, those items are approved. Next, under reports, Report 502526 by City Clerk submitting a license application. City Attorney, do you want to speak first?
Sure. So the license application is El Rancho LLC. This is a new legal entity seeking to replace the existing ownership at My Place on New Jersey Avenue. The committee recommended, this was brought before committee twice. Committee's ultimate recommendation is to deny the license application. The applicant satisfies the minimum requirements under state and local law, but the city is authorized by state law to consider other factors that it deems relevant in its decision-making. The guardrails to those factors are that they can't be discriminatory factors. Bases of discrimination include things like protected characteristics, arrest conviction record, those sorts of things. Beyond that, you have broad authority to consider the factors that you deem relevant. If the council decides to vote to deny the license application, I would ask that the basis be provided so that staff may note the basis on the notice of denial. That is a requirement that the city must provide that basis in our notice of denial to the applicant. I am available if you have any other questions as you consider this.
Thank you. Alder Rust?
I move to send this back to committee.
It's been moved to refer back to the Licensing, Hearing, and Public Safety Committee. It's been seconded by Alder Heidemann. Any discussion on referral back to committee? Seeing none, all those in favor of referral back to committee state aye.
Aye.
Any objections? All right, that has been referred back to committee. All right, next under resolutions. Resolution number 178-2526 by Alders Mitchell and Prella authorizing entering into a tax increment district development agreement with Harborview Lofts LLC for the property located at 636 Wisconsin Avenue and further authorizing the issuance of taxable tax increment project municipal revenue obligations. Lot 1, Alder Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Under discussion. All right, I think Attorney Winters is online. Attorney Winters, do you want to add some commentary? Yep.
Important because having that allowed it to be what's called the rehabilitation TID as opposed to some of the other standard TIDs that are out there. And with the rehabilitation TID, it allows the city some additional powers, given some other statutes that are in our in the Wisconsin statutes. There is the standard TIF law that's under 66-1105, but then it's also bolstered by the Urban Renewal Act in 66-1337. Okay, and that coupled with the city powers in 62-11 of the statutes allows the city to take on what's called rehabilitation or conservation work, and it's also if it's tied to an urban renewal project. It gives the city additional powers and abilities to plan and try to remove or stop the spread of blight or rehabilitate certain areas. And so within the project plan that was approved by City Council and with all these statutes in support of the city's actions, they are able to acquire property, do environmental remediation, demolition. They're allowed to provide developer incentives. And those are things that were specifically laid out in the project plan back in March of 24. All of these things the city can do and are permitted to do and have already been approved by council to do within the TID. And this project specifically falls within all of those parameters and is within a rehabilitation TID that allows the city to be able to have a residential development of this type and provide developer incentives. So I don't know if there's any additional questions to shed any more light on that, but there's plenty of statute and law that's protective of the city's actions here in this with regard to this project and this development within the TID.
Thank you, Attorney Winters. I'm sure we'll have more questions throughout the conversation. City Administrator.
Yes, one other item of misinformation that was presented here is that the site is not contaminated. This site is 02605975556 on the BERT's website, which is the Wisconsin DNR database of all contaminated sites in the state of Wisconsin. If you go on there, you'll see that this site is contaminated with lead, metals, polynuclear aromatic hydrocarbons, and volatile organic compounds. And in the conclusions and recommendations from Stantec that was submitted to the DNR that they opened this case for, they list that in its current state, no action is required. But they also state it should be noted that given the presence of these compounds in excess of RCLs, soil may need to be properly managed in accordance with Wisconsin DNR requirements if excavated in the future. So obviously this is a development project, which means they will be excavating, which means that's the added cost and burden of the developer. And then the statement that we're selling the land free and clear, that does not free and clear the developer of following state law, as this project will have to be regulated through the Wisconsin DNR, and the permit for the building will also go through the Wisconsin DSPS for approvals. So they will be responsible for those additional costs related to the cleanup of that contaminated site.
All right, thank you, City Administrator. Alder Close.
Yes, I'd just like to address the question around parking that was brought up quite a bit. Can we talk to what kind of parking is being added, how much is going to be part of this project, and if we feel as though there's not enough, what mechanism will we be able to use in the future to potentially add more parking to this development?
Director Zeinert.
Hello all. I will say that the site plan, it does have to go to the Plan Commission. So the Plan Commission does have that final say on it. The current projected project has 92 internal parking spaces as well as 30 surface lots. That lot, or the 30 lots, are for both the apartment. They have their own set, and then the townhomes, they also have 30. Additionally, there is also the parking lot behind the Berkshire that is also available.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Close. Alder Prella.
Yes, so if possible at all, I would like to have a clear statement or a confirmation then that the site being in a rehabilitation TID is legally part of this TID. without the site itself necessarily being qualifying for some aspects in itself, but being within the boundary of T221 due to the flexibility that it was referred to, that was mentioned, and the fact that it is in a rehabilitation TID with all the qualifiers met, this is legitimately can be legitimately part under this TID. I just would like to have a confirmation of that, since this has been the type of feedback I received. I did my own research, and my conclusion is that it is, and I'm happy to hear that from the attorney, but I would like that statement be straightforward and clear.
Attorney Winters, did you catch that?
Yes. All of the property within the TID is deemed to be rehabilitation property, if you will. There's no designation within the boundaries of the TID. As long as as long as more than 50% of the properties within the TID boundaries is in need of rehabilitation, it is considered a rehabilitation TID, and all the property within it has all the rights and privileges of any other property within that TID.
Thank you. I have one more question, Mayor.
Yep.
I really think the parking is something that should be a subject which should be expanded a little bit more. I think it's really, the concerns brought forward are very clear. I share them. So I would like a little bit more substance on the idea of how we are going to address this. Now, it may not be possible tonight, I don't know, but it is an important subject related to this topic.
Thank you. City Administrator, do you want to respond?
Yes, thank you. As Director Zeiner pointed out, this will go back to Plan Commission. So this is the start of the project. This is not approving the project. So everything has to go through all of the normal processes. So the only difference here is that we have a TID agreement. We have a development agreement that if the development happens as lined out in the development agreement, then we will provide an incentive. It doesn't give any fast track. It doesn't give any special treatment of any kind to any developer. They still have to go through all of the normal processes. So parking is something that is always addressed in depth at Plan Commission. Some projects it's pretty easy. Some projects it's more of a discussion and more of an analysis that they have to go through to make sure that we're getting the parking that we need. So in this next step here will be they'll develop their site plan, take that to Plan Commission, and if Plan Commission has issues with the amount of parking stalls, then it'll have to come back until they're satisfied with that. Once they get to that point, then it'll come forward for council's consideration. So I know staff has been working extensively with them on this site plan for well over a year now. So I think they have some good ideas, but it definitely needs to be flushed out more extensively. And, if the neighbors want to have a conversation with the developer to get a better understanding, more than happy to have them work with the planning department, and they can help facilitate a conversation to have the developer come and talk directly with you so you have a better understanding of what they're proposing. I know this developer has done this on other projects and has actually amended his project based on the feedback of the neighbors. So I would highly encourage you guys to reach out to Director Zeiner and try to get a meeting scheduled and have that developer come talk more directly so we can get these issues hopefully resolved.
Thank you. City Administrator Alder Close.
Yes, there was a lot of talk about issuance of debt, leveraging debt in order to fund this. Director Krieger, could you please speak to how much or if any debt is being leveraged for this project?
Finance Director.
Sure, I'm happy to do so. So there was initial debt taken out in order to purchase the Wells Fargo building, so that was done a while ago already. But moving forward, how this development agreement happens or works is it is actually based on the tax payments that are made by the entity. So the city is not taking out more debt in order for this project to move forward. In fact, we're actually just going to receive the tax payment, and then we will make an incentive payment back to the developer after that payment has been made.
Any follow-up on this topic?
One follow-up, yes. As you referred to the incentive as well, can you go into more detail about how that incentive is paid out and what mechanism is at play over time, how they would receive that?
I might ask for a little bit of clarification on exactly what you're looking for.
Trying to rehash the question that I asked back in the Finance and Personnel Committee, just how does the incentive program work? It is a substantial amount, and I just want to clarify how they will receive that over time, if they will receive that, and what parameters need to be met for them to actually receive that amount.
Thank you. So the development agreement puts in place quite clearly the parameters in order for those payments to be made. So the Finance Department tracks all of the municipal revenue obligations that are attached to any of these development agreements. So we track to make sure that the tax payments are made, and we make sure that the value that was guaranteed is in fact achieved at the site or on that development property. So once we do that, we also make sure, in this case, there is, I believe it's on the second section of this project or lot 2, but if there are any rental requirements, we also look at those right away and make sure that those are getting satisfied according to the development agreement as well. So when those occur, we typically look at the payments occurring after summer, because the property owners typically have 2 payments allowed in order to completely satisfy their tax obligation. Once those taxes are paid, we confirm that the checks cash and everything like that. We give it a few weeks to make sure everything is good on that front, and we go back and actually calculate based on the parameters within the development agreement, if it's a percentage or if there's an admin fee, anything like that that needs to come off before we send that out. We provide the development or the developer a letter that pretty much goes through exactly how it was calculated and that the confirmation has been completed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Gravine?
Yes, could somebody remind me how many 3-bedroom apartments were in the plan?
Director Zeiner?
The proposed project, the proposed project currently has 8 3-bedroom apartments.
Thank you.
Any other follow-up? Alder Gravine? All right, Alder Perella.
Thank you for this additional opportunity. I just wanted to go back briefly to the parking place. So since this has been, it's a project that we have talked about that it has been in the works for quite a while. I reasonably assume that this issue with the parking lot, with the parking, is something that is forefront in the developer's mind. And I'm sure they have a plan. I hope that they have a plan about this. So again, I want to reiterate, this is no little thing. And I think this will need to be better articulated, and I appreciate the offer. I think that the neighbors need to be a part of the conversation on this specifically. I assume, again, that maybe you cannot share more details about those plans, but this is very important to the whole downtown situation. So I hope that this will be addressed properly soon. I just want to reiterate that.
All right, thank you, Alder Perella. Any other discussion? Alder Boris, yep. Thank you. City Administrator.
So this project, I know the property sat vacant for a number of years and was being marketed to be sold by a real estate group. We had checked with them. They had really no interested parties. We did find out that one other potential interested party was in over the course of the years, and we followed up on them on why they didn't proceed. And from finding out with them, it just became basically a financial burden to purchase this. So from there, the city looked at, was there opportunity given the location or desire to get higher density into the downtown area and provide more residents into the downtown area. So we worked with SCEDC. We originally took the approach of maybe this being a mixed use development, looking at the potential for commercial being mixed in with residential, looking at different parties that would be interested and different developers that might be interested in this. Ultimately, the commercial aspect, they came back and those folks were more interested in 100% TID. That's just something that's not the practice of the city and not something that we're willing to do. I know a lot of other communities are doing market rate and retail and giving out 100% TID, but that's not something the city of Sheboygan has done, nor have we been interested in doing projects like that. So we started talking to residential developers that we've marketed, I believe, the last 2 or 3 years. We've looked at having this property in our book, seeing what interested parties at our developer summit would come forward on this. Ultimately, the size, contamination, and our desire to have an affordability component attached to the project really limited the parties that were interested in working through this. We had worked with Three Amigos on another project in the community that they were successful on. We asked them to look at it, see if they could come up with a proposal. They did, and they were able to make that cash flow with the limited incentive that we're able to provide or willing to provide. So that's kind of how we ended up with Mr. Buswell and the Three Amigos. One of the other limitations that we have that you necessarily don't see in a lot of other communities, our development agreement is a template that we adopted when I first started. Attorney Winters has been the drafter of that. A few different things that are unique about our development agreements is they're non-transferable. So we look at when we're doing these projects, we're partnering with a developer and we're partnering with that developer over the course of the TID. So some of the unique things that exist in our development agreements, they can only transfer if council approves it. So 10 years from now, if the developer wants to sell this project, the development agreement doesn't go with them unless council approves it. And you have the ability to deny that transfer for any reason or no reason whatsoever. And that's something many developers are uncomfortable with. They're basically locked into making sure that the city is satisfied. One of the other elements that's in here is they must comply with all regulations, all ordinances, and all laws. So not only do they have the legal aspect, but they also have the financial aspect that over the course of the TID, as they're receiving their TID payments, if they're not in compliance, then we can enforce that. So in this situation, if the neighbors have an issue with this project, if the neighbors have concern, they reach out to us, we're able to get that remedied right away. And like in this particular case, there's some provisions in here. Feedback that we actually received from the condo association was concerns about vibrations during demolition. So there are provisions requiring vibration monitoring in this contract that they have to adhere to. And if residents are notifying us that they think it's an excess, they have to have a record of it so we can prove whether they're in compliance or non-compliance. So there's a lot more regulations that also prohibits some developers from even being interested in our development agreements, let alone the incentives.
Alder Borst, any follow-up on that item?
Requesting, and I know that this is a big concern for many of the council members, making sure that we have affordable options, not just market rate. But my understanding is that when we put caps on the sale price or the rental amount that can be charged, that also can potentially be a deterrent, which in actuality then potentially limits the number of developers that may be interested. Is that correct as well?
City Administrator?
Yes, that is correct. So anytime that we put a cap on, so this is not Section 8, this is not income verified, but what we're doing in this type of housing is that we're putting a cap on the maximum rate that they can charge, and that rate is tied to the HUD median income level for the community. So essentially, they're not allowed to charge over the median affordability as HUD determines it, and that's done annually, and they have to certify that back to us. So that, if it's an apartment that they normally through market rate could have charged $1,500 for, and they're only able to charge $1,200 for, then they lose out on that money. So that's part of what that TID incentive in this case is buying down. This one was unique in that we used it to leverage negotiating those 8 3-bedrooms into the property, and we also were able to negotiate that affordability. We did try this exact project, the townhome, because the product is very nice. It fits very well into the neighborhood from an aesthetic standpoint. We tried putting this onto the Lukey project, and ultimately we had to go with a different product just because they couldn't make a cash flow with the size and with the limitations that were on it. But partnering this with the market rate, we were able to get this into this project. So yes, it definitely affects it, and the subsidy helps make it possible.
All right. Alder Decker, did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Quick comments that I just had. First, a historical context on that land as far as the contamination. I don't know if people do remember back the area, the northwest section of that property was formerly a Firestone tire store, service center. And before that, I believe a gas station. So that's where a lot, I think, the contamination is. And anyone that has gone through a lot of projects with contamination, that's one of the things. So that's where I think the contamination issue is coming from. And I think people have to realize that can be a significant problem. Also, I also am somewhat concerned on the parking, and I hope we can get that addressed through the Planning Commission and such like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Decker. Any other discussion on this item? All right, just seeing no more cues, this is a roll call vote.
Nine ayes.
Oops. Yeah.
9 ayes, 1 no.
All right, that item is approved. Next, item 22, resolution number 179-2526 by Alders Mitchell and Prella, authorizing entering into a tax increment development agreement with Harborview Lofts LLC for the property located at 636 Wisconsin Avenue, and further authorizing the issuance of taxable tax increment project municipal revenue obligation Lot 2. Alder Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Alder Prella.
I just want to confirm that this is the one, so this is the resolution that addresses that lot, which includes the affordable townhomes. I am very pleased about this. I'm very pleased that we were able to secure this part of the project. We do need real affordable rent-capped housing units in our inventory. I actually would like to see us focusing more on looking for these type of projects, much more than we are doing right now. And so I'm very pleased about this part of the project in particular, since it really addresses a huge need as far as affordability goes, and also, of course, creates more opportunity for for people to stay around. Affordability is becoming here a huge issue, and so this is a small part towards a solution, together with other projects that we have just completed, but I think we needed much more in the future as well.
Thank you, Alder Prella. Any other discussion on this item? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Ten ayes.
That is approved. Next, resolution number 170-2526 by Alders Decker and Rust, authorizing the appropriate city officials to submit an application to purchase the Sheboygan Breakwater Lighthouse. Alder Rust.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Under discussion. Alder Close.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I saw the total of 299,000 for, or I apologize, I'm reading the wrong portion. Could we please go over how we're going to address the maintenance of this facility? I know the Port Washington facility that was refurbished was a bit expensive and ran into some costs over time. I would expect that this would be similar. How are we addressing that at this point before we go ahead and move forward with this?
City Administrator.
We've done everything we can in our opinion to try to best estimate what those costs are going to be. We hired the Concord group. So Concord had won the bid to do an assessment of all city-owned properties and facilities, and they've just wrapped that up. As we're going through this process, as we became aware that they were looking at parting ways with the lighthouse and giving the city an opportunity, we asked Concord Group to go in and do an assessment. So this estimated $495,857 that they've estimated for the fix to basically get it up to standards and help maintain it. Then the ongoing cost was also in their report on what they're estimating. So that's our best guess, and ultimately what we would put into that until we are actually actively monitoring and maintaining the facility, we won't know for sure. There's going to be a few hurdles as we go through this process. So obviously our goal would be to get this $495,000 down to as close to zero as possible by going after a number of grants. We've already had organizations that have contacted us that are interested in potentially granting funding for this. And then the ongoing, we've got in 2029, the lighthouse will actually get moved. They'll be redoing the pier, and then they'll be putting it back in its place. So for a period of time, it'll probably sit on a barge out in the marina and then be replaced. So it's probably going to be a 5-10 year process before we're really understanding what those ongoing maintenance costs are going to really be versus what they were estimated at.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Decker wanted to say something.
Oh, sorry.
10 ayes.
All right, that's approved. All right, next, resolution number 173-2526 by Alders Mitchell and Prella, adopting the Mayor's International Committee travel policy. Alder Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Under discussion. Alder Close.
Yes, I'll need to abstain from this vote due to my wife serving as chair of the International Committee.
Thank you. Other discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Nine ayes, one abstain.
All right, that is approved. Next, item 25, general ordinance number 382526 by Alders Menzer and Close, annexing territory to the city of Sheboygan, Wisconsin, tax parcel number 59024346880. Alder Menzer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to adopt the ordinance.
Moved and seconded. Under discussion. Alder Prella.
Why are we annexing this?
Director Zeinart.
This is for a future Habitat for Humanity home.
Thank you.
Other discussion on this item? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Ten ayes.
That is approved. All right, we've exhausted our agenda for this evening. Alder Prella.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjournment state aye.
Aye.
Any objections? We're adjourned at 7 o'clock. Thanks, everybody.